So who's writing that specification? What have you opposed? Who should actually define and design workflow in the tapeless world? I mean, must it be someone like Bob and his skill set, chief engineer? I mean, who's setting the model here that they want to follow? Who should be? Bob, let me come to you first.
Well, at the risk of being killed by lots of chief engineers, I beg your pardon, I don't think it should be the chief engineer in isolation anymore. Certainly that person is a very important component of the team, as is the CIO, the Chief Information Officer. They're very important because they are able to understand the boundaries of current technology. But starting from the beginning, designing the workflow from the beginning has to be the end user, the end editorial, creative, production user, hand in hand with the business.
Yeah.
And it has to be driven that way because increasingly, as you enter the IT networked world, you're entering a world whereby the technology process should be invisible.
Yes.
And the technology solution has to match the business requirement, as opposed to in traditional broadcasting, in the 35 years I've been lucky enough to be in it, it's always been, we'd like to do more, but the technology won't quite let us. Yeah. Now that's not the case. Yeah. Now the technology can allow lots of things. So
and indeed must allow, because it's commercial suicide to ignore it.
Right. So at the risk of obviously I'm a consultant, so I will say this, but the issue here is to be as unbiased as possible in getting the business to think about what they'd like to do. And a lot of businesses, I don't know if you would agree, but a lot of businesses actually, at the deeper levels, don't know as much about what they do as they think they do, because it's been, well, not because there's anything wrong, but because they've grown in an organic way. And down here, the librarian who's been there for 10 years probably knows an awful lot, and as you get further away. So the key, I think, is to open the dialogue with the business in a way that lets them think it through earlier.
Yeah, what's the Donald Rumsfeld statement? There are known knowns and
and
it's almost that, isn't it?
Unknown unknowns that we know we don't. Yeah, one
exactly,
of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are, but it's crucial because it's about getting. It's about getting people to want to take the journey. Moving into tapeless workflow is a journey.
Chris, is it in your experience that end user, the person with the overall vision, or is it the chief engineer?
It's no longer the chief engineer. I would agree with Bob. The technology now is an enabler and a facilitator to do what they want. So the design of workflows, the overall coming up with the overall solution is very much more now a collaborative effort, bringing the expertise of suppliers, consultants like Bob, the business experts within the organisation themselves that actually know what they want to achieve, know the way they're running at the moment, and it's a collaborative effort to drive it forward. There is, and that brings its own challenges. You haven't got the chance now for one person to sort of lay down the law in the way that a chief engineer maybe did a few years ago. So it can be like herding sheep sometimes to try and get it together, but it is a collaborative process to ensure that you get the correct solution in the end.
Yeah, Dimitris?
It's definitely the user at the end of the day. And what we see more and more is that basically the media organizations are moving more into defining horizontal models, okay? And have more open workflow structures rather than having very strict workflows. And horizontal architecture is key, I believe. Okay, so in order to, because this is a very dynamic environment, you have to change the workflows, you have to be agile, you have to adapt to the business changes as well. New platforms, new competitors, new formats, everything is changing, okay? New technology. Technology should find its way very easy within, because technology boosts creativity, as we said. So workflows, definitely end user is at the heart of the workflow. Technology plays an extremely important role, but I believe more importantly, it plays a role in providing this horizontal architecture that can support any sort of workflow process.
And I guess gives the end user, just mention news, that's all up until now, but it gives that end user the flexibility that they must have today, I guess.
I think there's an interesting point though, and I agree with everything that's been said, but one of the things the chief engineer persona or the engineering trained person used to bring to the party was a way of thinking. Now, I don't think it's necessarily an outmoded way of thinking, because amongst all the opportunity that collaborative working and integrated IT architecture brings, comes a need to think through process and to think not in a rigid mathematical way, but certainly there needs to be a degree of process thinking, structured process thinking, because if that is not present, it can lead to all sorts of difficulty, and then the expectations are not met, and then the faith in the underlying platform is lost, and then people start to say, well, I wish I had my...
Yeah.
Which is where this whole God comes from.
And I think it's where you go to the collaboration part. In the end, it is a business driver behind these tapeless workflows and so on. It's getting the collaboration, it's getting the efficiencies, it's serving the need of the business, whether it's to deliver more material, be more flexible, support more platforms, quicker turnaround, more cost efficiencies and so on. So the concept of a user, if you like, in defining workflows, yes, the editor or this person or whatever will have his own requirements, but in the end you have to make sure that you satisfy the business requirements of the workflow and keep it at that level. And that's where, as you said, the type of thinking that used to come with the chief engineer is still relevant, of keeping it up at the right level to get where you need to go.